I'm officially 35 now, and there are 5 pieces of advice that I would give to my 20-year-old self if I could go back in time. Oh my god, it was 15 years ago. I am old. Hi guys, in today's video I want to share with you 5 useful pieces of advice that I wish I was aware of in my 20s. And they're not top 5 things that would apply to everyone on this planet. These are just 5 thoughts that I think are important to me and may also be applicable to many of you. So without further ado, let's get into it. Advice number 1, choose a profession that you're really passionate about. That'll help you to avoid making this decision many years later when it will be much harder to switch. What I mean here, when you're young and don't have many responsibilities, it's much easier to try as many things as possible without a fear that you will run out of money and you will not be able to support your family because you don't have a mortgage, you don't have a partner, kids, and other liabilities that you have to pay every month for. And if you wake up 15 years later with a full-time job that you don't really like or even hate, that drains most of your energy, it's really challenging to develop your passion only in your free time that you wish to spend with your family and friends. I wish I'd spent more time developing my skills in the video content creation area 15 years ago and not now when it is much more exhausting. So guys, if you're young and you already know what you love and what you'd enjoy doing for the rest of your life, just stick to it and don't try to temporarily replace it with something you won't be happy with in the long term, because this replacement may slowly start pulling you away from your dreams. Advice number 2, if you see an opportunity, take a risk. Because in the worst case scenario, you'll just fail, but if it works, the reward may be life-changing. When I was in my 20s, I was really scared of taking risks, any kind of risks, and I was trying to make the environment around me as safe as possible. And I've accomplished that pretty successfully, despite all difficulties that I faced in Poland while being a Belarusian immigrant. When I was young, I thought that just the fact that I moved from one country to another actually was already a huge risk and kind of realized opportunity. And I still think that I was pretty good at catching those opportunities. However, from a time perspective, I should admit that I could push even harder and take more risks in other areas of my life, like my future job, my passion, finances, and all kind of thoughts that I had related to business ideas. There is a saying, you miss 100% opportunities you don't take. And that is something that I can completely agree with, especially if you are 20 or even younger, because the older you are, the less risks you want to take and the less risks you actually can take due to responsibilities you have. So don't be scared to take an opportunity if you think it may change your life. Even if you fail, just learn from the mistakes and go on. Treat this failure just as a step to your success. Advice number 3, don't waste much of your time on parties with your friends and watching movies. It's better to invest this time in yourself by learning more about your passion and thinking about how to build your own business. When I was a student at the University of Economics, I had an enormous amount of free time for about 5 years, and I wasn't the best, I wasn't the worst student, a little bit above average, I think. And I had so much free time that sometimes I was literally just sitting on my bed in my triple dorm and doing nothing. Okay, probably playing a guitar to kill the time, but I didn't even have a laptop for the first couple of years of my studies, so I had to visit a computer room in the campus or ask for it from my dorm mate. So in the evenings, there were 2 options: going somewhere for a party or watching a movie with my friend whom I was sharing a room with. Later on, there was a third option, playing computer games. And right now, when I think about all this wasted time, I really regret that I was not mentally ready, I was not mature enough to use this time as a gift for learning new things or discovering my real passions. Time is a real currency that you should really use wisely, especially if you're young. Because having too many beers and be wasted for the entire next day or watching another season of stupid series will not add you any skills and for sure will not help you to build a business. Advice number 4, start saving and investing as early as possible and as consistent as possible. Regardless how big the amounts are, the earlier you start, the more compound interest you'll be able to gain with time. I was not taught how to build my wealth either at home nor at school or university. Everyone around was claiming that the most important thing in anyone's life is to get a good education, to find a decent job, and then earn money until you retire, and when you get old, you should count on your kids who will be helping you with the money because obviously you will not be rich. If you grew up with such a mentality like me and then at the University of Economics you hear about Adam Smith's theory from the 18th century or other theories that don't give you any practical advice on how to actually build your wealth, then of course we have a problem. Right now it's much easier to get a basic financial education using literally just YouTube. There's so many real successful people who are sharing practical information with real numbers, with real money, talking about stocks, ETFs, real estate, for free. And you can analyze all of it and then learn from them how to apply this or that strategy to your own finances. I couldn't even calculate my taxes after I got my first job having a 5 years economic education background. And I wish someone would share with me in my 20s the information about how it is important to start saving and investing early, how important it is to start thinking about your retirement or your early retirement at a young age. I wish someone would show me how compound interest works or how time exponentially affects your savings and investments that are wisely allocated. I would then totally change the way I was managing my finances. If you're in your 20s or 30s like me and you're watching these and still convinced that the retirement is somewhere far away or you'll think about it somewhere in your 50s, I encourage you to start educating yourself and to totally review your spendings, your savings, your high interest debts, your finances in general. If you want to be financially independent, better think about this right now, and whatever situation you have at this moment, it will pay off in the future anyway. Advice number 5. Learn from the best. Don't surround yourself with the people that you can't learn anything new from. Remember the saying, tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are. It doesn't mean you need to forget all your unsuccessful friends. The idea is that you may consider spending more time with the friends who encourage you, who have similar goals with you, who don't drag you to the bottom. You don't want to compare yourself to people who didn't achieve something either, who didn't get this job either, because then you start thinking, well, if this person didn't make it, probably it's okay that I didn't make it either. It is the same as if you ask at school who else got a bad score and then you feel a relief because 80% of the class got the same bad score. But you don't want to feel relief because someone else got the same results. You want to be angry that you don't belong to these 20% of people who got the best results. I had too many situations in my 20s when I felt a relief because I was comparing myself to the people who were not good enough at something as me, or who were exactly like me, or were in a worse situation than me. I should have focused on the ones that I actually could learn from, or who could make me a better person, or give some advice. That is also something that I was not taught in my childhood and that I've understood only in my 30s. So surround yourself with smart minds and you will notice how less toxic your relationship with your friends will become. And finally, advice number 6, subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Usually I do filmmaking tips and tutorials, storytelling videos. Today I wanted to share a bit more of my personality and the last 15 years of my life. I hope you learned something new today and this video will help you to be a better person and not make mistakes I made in my 20s. So love you guys and see you in the next one. Cheers.